You may have been seeing a lot of headlines having to do with one of the best basketball players in the world, Kyrie Irving, that have nothing to do with basketball.
Nick and I were talking, offline, like we're so sick of talking about Kyrie from last season, right? Dealing with the and his logic. And again, here we are again, him trying to apply Kyrie logic to something that is pretty straightforward.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
5 seconds, he's got to go to work. Sizing up Anderson, long three. Goodbye! Kyrie Irving! I cannot believe you've done it again!
How did it come to this with Kyrie Irving and LeBron James?
Kyrie Irving doesn't want to be LeBron James' little brother. He doesn't want to be LeBron James' sidekick. And he doesn't want to play for an organization in the Cleveland Cavaliers who would evolve everything around a guy that's going to, in all likelihood, leave after next season.
Did you speak to LeBron James or talk to LeBron James before you and your representatives met with ownership to let them know that you wanted out?
No.
Why not?
Why would I have to?
This brother is special. He reminds me of Isaiah Thomas every day I watch him more and more. He's just so special. He's so special.
Irving for three. Wow! Uncle Drew strikes again!
A closer to the vest and reserved young star turned inquisitive deep thinker and the ultimate crusader of his own beliefs. This is Kyrie Irving.
With the first pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Kyrie Irving from Duke University.
The showmanship, the all-time clutch gene, the handles, and the alpha mindset. It's a one-of-a-kind package that we've never quite seen before.
Irving again. Moves an eyes from the crowd. Manages to hit the ball back, putting on a show with the ball handling layup. It's good.
Kyrie, for the first 3 seasons of his NBA career, took the reins of a mightily struggling franchise that desperately sought, forget winning. They just needed a sideshow to get the fans in the seats after the departure of LeBron James a year earlier. And who was a better candidate to capture fanfare and a buzz than Kyrie Irving? The Cleveland Cavaliers were not winning before Kyrie's arrival and remained one of the worst teams in basketball, even when Kyrie joined their team. But that 19-year-old kid out of Duke made a name for himself fast.
Point suddenly, Portland with 11. Irving. Lost Miller, which way to go!
And when you catch the eye of not only one of the greatest players of all time, but one of the greatest defenders of all time, it's a glaring sign that you're, well, special. So special that the next time that Kyrie and Kobe met, Kobe literally got up to challenge Kyrie and even got down in that iconic defensive stance that lets you know that something serious is up.
Kyrie against Bryant, who takes on the challenge. See if Kyrie does as well. Crowd anticipating a little one-on-one action. Behind the back, couldn't shake him. Bryant still an all-world defender, and he blocked it.
Now wait. Kobe biting his jersey and pulling up his shorts, that means he was zoned all the way in, and I wonder why.
Anderson bears out with a dozen.
When the bright lights come on, something happens.
Kyrie dancing with it. Off the glass, a little window shot.
Let him have it.
Kyrie off the dribble. The bottom for 2.
There weren't any finals appearances or big-time NBA final shots just yet, but everyone was already convinced this guy was the next guy in line. And wait, what was that one highlight or moment that made Kyrie Irving famous? Oh yes, but like with any superstar athlete, there is one thing all franchises dread the most: the injury bug. And unfortunately, even though the supremely gifted Kyrie Irving, his ailments began in his early days, going back even to his time at Duke. A nagging toe injury kept Kyrie out of 26 games in his first and only season at Duke University. Kyrie Irving followed that up by missing 15 games in his rookie season after suffering a shoulder contusion. Now, While there wasn't any huge concern for Kyrie Irving's long-term health, well, at least not at that time, you can't help but think that the Cavaliers had thought in the back of their mind after seeing Kyrie Irving miss time in college and then from the very get-go in his rookie campaign in the NBA. It was something to think about. After his rookie season, there was still a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Kyrie, he missed time with a few minor injuries, but again, it still wasn't enough for Cleveland to hit the panic button with Kyrie Irving. After all, when he did put on that uniform and he did step out on the court, his play was nothing short of spectacular. Though Kyrie, he participated in 110 out of 164 games in his first 2 seasons. But things slowly improved for Kyrie Irving from a health standpoint, and as he got healthier, Kyrie created a buzz among the fans and his peers. It was a breath of fresh air for all of Cleveland, Ohio. The team's first overall pick from a couple of years earlier was now participating in his first ever NBA All-Star game and already pulled off one of the highlights of the decade. A year later in 2014, Kyrie's play continued to climb, as did his reputation in the NBA among his peers. In fact, Kyrie's special play earned him his second straight All-Star nod, and his play in the 2014 All-Star game just might have convinced a certain someone to think again about what he wanted to do with his upcoming free agency just a few months later.
Go ahead, toss that boy in the air, man. Yo, put that joint by your head. Hey, Kyrie, throw the fans, man.
You gotta put it up. You gotta put it up. Yeah. That's the money shot. That's the money shot.
How about the race that we're headed for at the bottom of the Western Conference playoff? LeBron James with yet another slam. Another one. That's intended for Love. Thrown behind him. Here comes Irving. James from Irving. Got a pretty good look. Just a simple down screen. And here's Irving to the trailer.
It's almost as if this was like a sign of things to come.
Curry on Irving. Irving the drive. Back to James. Cavaliers lead and a foul.
I love you. I'm back.
For better or for worse, depending on how you look at it, LeBron came back home to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the summer of 2014, and it was a decision that profoundly impacted the entire trajectory of Kyrie Irving's career. The way Kyrie Irving saw himself, his presence in the locker room, how fans and media began looking at Kyrie, and well, a huge change in role for the ex-first overall pick in the NBA draft. Becoming the face and the leader of a franchise is one thing, and it is by any and every stretch of the imagination a monumental task that only a handful of players have ever been able to take on. But giving up the role as a leader and essentially handing the keys of the franchise off to someone else is an entirely different challenge. But here's the kicker. In early 2014, Kyrie Irving put all his marbles in Cleveland's basket by signing a long-term deal that would keep him there with Cleveland as his home base for the next several seasons. Then, just a week and a half after Kyrie signed that deal to become the future and the face of the franchise, LeBron, of course, announced his return to Cleveland. And obviously, when you get a guy like LeBron, who was not only the best basketball player in the world at the time, but also the face of the entire NBA and the most powerful individual in the NBA, well, Kyrie Irving had to take a backseat to LeBron, whether he really wanted to or not. And that's some of the speculation that was going on at the time when LeBron initially announced his decision. When a franchise commits to you the way that Cleveland did, you expect to wield the keys to the franchise and make this your city. Was Kyrie prepared to accept the quote-unquote Robin role to be in LeBron James's Batman? Well, we aren't sure exactly. But did the LeBron and Kyrie Irving tandem work?
Ginobili on the ball and Leonard. Kyrie, a three. Good! He got it at the buzzer.
I'm a fan. You better tonight.
LeBron for three.
Wow. What a shot.
What a hit for LeBron James.
You know, his talent, his work ethic,
You know, the fact that he loved to continue to learn about how to play the game.
Indeed it did. It worked. And it worked incredibly well in just Kyrie Irving and LeBron's first season together. No controversies, no butting heads, no drama. Well, for now at least. And apparently, no guy felt that his shine was being taken away from the other. And what did that ultimately bring? A championship run in Kyrie's first season playing alongside LeBron, which included Kyrie's rather memorable playoff debut back in 2015.
We see the Celtics playing a zone for the first. He just continues to play so well for the Celtics. Irving, bang, at the buzzer. Irving again.
Which had us all convinced. LeBron is back. Kyrie is clearly a bad man in the postseason, and the Cavs had themselves a roster that would keep atop of the standings for the foreseeable future. It's almost like the Cavs, and especially the tandem of LeBron and Kyrie, were destined to get to the NBA Finals, which they did in LeBron and Kyrie's first season together. And with Kyrie riding shotgun to LeBron, the duo looked as promising as ever. And that's exactly what was transpiring up until overtime in Game 1 of the 2015 NBA Finals. After playing the most games during the regular season in just his 4-year-old career, the injury bug hit Kyrie stronger than ever when he went down with an awful-looking knee injury. Just over 48 minutes into his first NBA Finals series of his career at only 23 years old, Kyrie wouldn't suit up again for the remainder of that series, which remains one of the biggest heartbreaks for Cavs fans to this very day. Luckily for Cleveland, the dynamic duo of LeBron James and Kyrie Irving wouldn't go another year without reaching the finals. Actually, let's get back on track to that second trip to the NBA Finals for Kyrie.
Just 3 for 12 to start for the Warriors. Irving, shake and bake, and drills it. Tristan Thompson on him. Curry the drive, shot blocked by Irving. Steve Kerr telling his team continue to move without the basketball. Irving again from downtown. Irving slides inside. Thompson right with him. Irving, bank shot is good, and a foul. Kyrie Irving does it again. He's got 33. Irving fakes, drives. James on the throwdown. Irving drives on Green, gets inside, off balance, comes up short, gets his own rebound and puts it back. Kyrie Irving, the second effort.
A finals performance for the ages by the still just 24-year-old Kyrie Irving. Falling into a dreaded 3-1 hole versus the Golden State Warriors, it appeared for a moment that Cleveland would go another year without winning a title, as LeBron's come-home mission was still looming. And speaking of LeBron's come-home mission, he couldn't have done it without Kyrie's heroics for crucial stretches throughout those 7 games, particularly Game 3 in the series onward. You see, Kyrie Irving ripped off a 3-game stretch from Game 3 through Game 5, scoring 30, 34, and 41 points in what became one of his most dynamic stretches of games in his entire career. And LeBron was quite good too, through all 3 of those games as well. Well, except for the game-high 7 turnovers he had in a pivotal Game 4 back in Cleveland that could have knotted the series at 2. And that high turnover performance had people talking about the Cavs' 3-1 hole in the NBA Finals. But LeBron, he redeemed himself, and Kyrie was, well, Kyrie. And then the shot that took his career to brand new heights.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up.
That shot, one of the greatest clutch shots in NBA history, had a much bigger impact on NBA history than any of us could have ever imagined at that exact point in time. You see, it wasn't just any shot. Yes, it effectively won Cleveland their first major championship in over 50 years. But from that moment on, Kyrie's career changed for better or worse in a whole lot of ways. Kyrie was now an all-star, an all-NBA talent, a champion, and the owner of one of the most iconic shots and moments in league history. Not too bad for a guy who was still months away from his 25th birthday. But if that shot doesn't go in, do the Cavs still come out as NBA champions that year? Or do the Warriors perhaps finish their record-breaking 73-9 win season with an NBA championship? And how would a Warriors win in the 2016 NBA Finals change Kevin Durant's free agency decision that same year? Who knows? Maybe the Cavs and Warriors would have really had competitive final series for the next several years, and maybe that keeps Kyrie put in Cleveland. Oh, and about that,
his number one idol, the man that he respects above all other than his father,
Kobe,
is Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
When the Cavs won the championship 2 years ago, or a year ago, he came back to the locker room. You know what he did? He FaceTimed Kobe from the winning locker room. So he sees himself in the mold of Kobe. And whether or not, this isn't exactly like Kobe's Shaq, but Michael, this was something that I was thinking could be a possibility down the line with Kyrie and LeBron. There
it is, the ultimate turning point and what remains the climax of Kyrie Irving's career. You see, just 1 year after helping the Cleveland Cavaliers win their first title in franchise history, Kyrie turned around just a month after suffering defeat to the Golden State Warriors in the 2017 NBA Finals, and he abruptly requested a trade from LeBron James and the Cavaliers. And then it began. All the stories, the headlines, the narratives about Kyrie and LeBron's relationship and whether this was turning into or had already turned into another Kobe and Shaq dilemma. LeBron was reportedly devastated by the entire ordeal and even made a strong push for management to deny Kyrie's request to be traded. However, this contradicted other reports that LeBron was actually making a push to get Kyrie traded for Paul George, Eric Bledsoe, and a few other players at the time. It goes back to everything that was being said earlier and even what ESPN's Brian Windhorst touched on in that clip you watched just moments ago. You see, after Kyrie hit that shot to clinch the 2016 NBA Finals for the Cavs, and given his alpha-like mentality and what Windhorst described as Kyrie seeing himself in the mold of Kobe Bryant, Kyrie really felt that he deserved the same treatment from the organization that LeBron received. After all, Kyrie likely thought to himself, I played a big role, as LeBron did, in helping this team get to and win an NBA championship. And all of this caused, well, drama. Kyrie and LeBron's relationship to slowly crack, and a Cavs team that noticeably took a step back the season following their championship. And after LeBron called the Cavs top heavy as ish, the Cavs finished the season 23-23, and we're talking about the back half of the season after starting with the second best record in the entire league. And we didn't realize it at the time, but Kyrie's fracturing relationship with LeBron might have been the ultimate reason of the Cavs' struggles down the stretch of the 2016-2017 NBA regular season. In Game 3 of the first round in the 2017 NBA playoffs, the Cavaliers, down by as many as 26 points and still trailing the Indiana Pacers entering the fourth quarter, Kyrie played a grand total of 0 minutes in the fourth quarter. And we're talking about a guy that many, even present day in the NBA, we're talking about a guy known as the fourth quarter king, the closeout king, a guy who's built his name now as one of the greatest closers in NBA history. We don't know exactly how Kyrie Irving felt about this inside, but given Kyrie's mentality and his evident willingness to be one of the leaders of the team, we can only believe that this probably didn't sit well with him. But it's just at a point in time worth mentioning and something relevant to Kyrie's eventual exit from Cleveland, because Kyrie Irving wanted out, and he wanted out immediately.
Just now, in the last couple minutes, Joe Vardon also put out a report saying that Kyrie Irving threatened to have a knee surgery and not report to training camp if the Cavs didn't trade him.
Now, what kind of turn did Kyrie's career take from here?
Not only are you still in championship contention within the Eastern Conference, but you're incentivized even more because you got a guy in Kyrie Irving who wants it out. And if anybody has an incentive to go against LeBron and to try and beat him, it would be Kyrie Irving.
Did you speak to LeBron James or talk to LeBron James before you and your representatives met with ownership and let them know that you wanted out?
No.
Why not?
Why would I have to?
Saved by Kyrie with 1 to follow.
Despite the loss to the open of the season, it was nice seeing LeBron and Kyrie showcase their respect for one another after a long offseason filled with chaos, drama, and the media pushing narratives that the two were best friends turned enemies now. But that loss was far from a foreshadowing of things to come for the Boston Celtics. The Celtics opened that season with a league best 16-2 record and were off to their best start in franchise history. And their newest piece of the puzzle, Kyrie Irving, at this time being firmly in the MVP race and discussion. And after the Celtics pulled off an impressive early season victory at home against the defending world champion Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry was intrigued by a potential NBA Finals matchup.
They're playing the best right now in the East, and obviously until they beat Cleveland, who's done it 3 years in a row. We'll see, but I heard the weather's great here in June, so we'll see.
The Celtics, though, some minor inconsistencies here and there. Even though they had those inconsistencies, they were still one of the more well-rounded teams in basketball throughout the 2017 NBA season. They finished with a record of 55-27, but before all of that came a season-ending injury to Kyrie Irving, who was ironically forced to get surgery on his hampered knees after threatening the Cavaliers to get surgery if they traded him at one point in time. In early April 2018, after Kyrie had already been out for a handful of games, the Celtics announced that Kyrie Irving would miss the rest of the regular season and the playoffs. And this ultimately was the first crack in what was getting ready to become an incredible turn of events for Kyrie, who was still in just his first season with the Boston Celtics. As many of you probably remember, the Celtics without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, for that matter, they advanced all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals and fought against Kyrie Irving's ex-running mate LeBron James for the right to go to the NBA Finals. Well, the Celtics, led by a 20-year-old Jason Tatum, a 21-year-old Jaylen Brown, and a 24-year-old Terry Rozier, took LeBron's Cavs to 7 games before ultimately coming up just short of reaching the NBA Finals. The Celtics may have still celebrated their valiant effort and for their great season despite the injuries of their top 2 stars. But there was something completely unforeseen on the horizon for the same Celtics just a season later. You see, with LeBron James' free agency move to the Lakers, the Celtics opened up the following 2018-2019 season as the prohibitive favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. But that's not at all what happened. And more so, Kyrie's struggles were very apparent. The Celtics opened up that season with a rather eyesore 10-10 record, and Kyrie through the first 6 games of that season, he averaged a grand total of just 14 points per game. And as the season rolled along, things didn't exactly get any better. Sure, the Celtics might have looked a bit better in the win column, but what was happening behind closed doors? Well, let's just say it was slowly making its way into the eyes of the public. On January 12th, 2019, and exactly 42 games into the season, the Celtics, after yet another disappointing loss, hit new lows. Kyrie was upset with the way that the game ended, and it slowly showed even more inside the Celtics locker room. Jaylen Brown told the media the very next day following the loss to the Magic,
"We just gotta have each other's back at the end of the day. We can't make counters, we can't point fingers. We just gotta continue to empower each other and have each other's back. If we don't, start pointing fingers, everybody's gonna go into their own little shell. We gotta continue to play basketball. It starts from the top to the bottom, not from the bottom to the top, but from the top to the bottom. So we got to continue to empower each other and make the best of this."
To which Kyrie Irving responded saying,
"I had to call Bron, and tell him I apologize for being that young player that wanted to everything at his fingertips, and I wanted everything to be at my threshold. I wanted to be the guy that led us to championship. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be all that, and the responsibility of being the best player in the world and leading a team
is something that's not meant for many people.
And though this may have come across as Kyrie feeling some regrets on the way he handled the situation with LeBron just a couple of seasons earlier, a lot of people interpreted this quote by Kyrie as Kyrie's way of sending a message to his own teammates, particularly the young guys on the team who were in the middle of all the controversy because of how they performed without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward in the lineup just the season prior. The Celtics weren't in the ideal state, of course, and because they were seen as one of the legitimate contenders in the NBA, it began looking nothing like it. And there was an entire build-up of fans speculating whether or not Kyrie and Kevin Durant were on board the entire time to team up with each other in free agency when it opened the following summer. Do you remember this interaction between those two before the 2019 All-Star game that became widely talked about? Boston finished that season with a 4th seed in the Eastern Conference and a rather underwhelming 49 wins on the entire season. But all hard feelings were seemingly put behind the Celtics with the first-round sweep of the 5th seed Indiana Pacers. Kyrie played well. The young guys, they got their shine, and for the first time in perhaps the entire season, the Celtics looked destined for a deep playoff run. And those hopes were only elevated when the Celtics jumped out to a dominant 112-90 victory in Game 1 on the road over the conference-leading Milwaukee Bucks to the tune of Kyrie's 26 points, 11 assists, and an ultra-efficient 57% shooting from the floor. In a rather wild turn of events, that was literally all she wrote for Boston. Milwaukee won Game 2 by 21, won Game 3 at Boston, won Game 4 at Boston, and won again after a Game 5 25-point obliteration to officially close the door on Kyrie's Celtics. And not a single soul in Boston was thrilled.
I plan on re-signing here next year. First and foremost, I wanted to reach out, especially when free agency started, to Brooklyn and let them know that my interest was very high. And I had some other pieces that I wanted to bring with me as well.
Cleveland was its own story. Boston painted another picture. And now, with 8 seasons under his belt, this was Kyrie's time to write another chapter in his already Hall of Fame-worthy career. In a rather shocking turn of events, Kyrie Irving chose to sign with the Brooklyn Nets after rumors surrounding the New York Knicks and even the Los Angeles Lakers swirled around Kyrie throughout all of the previous season. And an even greater shock, Kyrie went to the Nets with Kevin Durant not too far behind, and thus it confirmed the speculation that went on last season surrounding Kyrie and KD's eventual team up. Now, Kyrie didn't play much in his first season on the Nets after missing a large portion of the season with a bad shoulder, and then of course when the pandemic struck and forced the league to shut down for 5 months. Kyrie's second season in Boston was quite eventful, to say the least. The Nets opened the 2020 NBA season with the 3rd best odds of winning the 2021 NBA title, and that of course a few months before the entire James Harden trade saga in Houston. Once the Nets were able to strike a deal with Houston for Harden in early January, the Nets, now a big 3 trio of Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, it created arguably the most polarizing trio of teammates that the league had ever seen. But just like injuries cut the previous season short for Brooklyn, injuries to Kyrie Irving and James Harden in the second round of the playoffs against the eventual champions that year, Milwaukee Bucks, it forced Brooklyn to fall short of their championship goals once again. But hey, there's always next year, right? Well, speaking of the next year...
Breaking news, Mayor de Blasio has announced a mandate for all New York City municipal workers, including first responders. The deadline to have at least 1 dose is 5 p.m. on October 29th.
And the Brooklyn Nets banning star guard Kyrie Irving from the team unless he gets...
But in terms of where I am with my life outside of this, I stay rooted in my decision, and that's just what it is.
The Brooklyn Nets opened training camp more than a week ago now, and still, Kyrie Irving remains
The Brooklyn Nets, they are trading James Harden to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks, sources tell ESPN.
Whether you sided with Kyrie Irving on his decision to forego the vaccine, The fact of the matter was that the team chemistry began spiraling downhill. Injuries persisted. James Harden decided that playing for the Nets was no longer in his best interest, and the team began plunging down the rankings. Kyrie didn't suit up for the Nets until early January and became the first part-time player in NBA history by playing in only away games for Brooklyn. And this was because of league protocols concerning the jab at the time. And all this began rubbing his newest teammate, James Harden, the wrong way. You see, Harden had this to say about Kyrie's prolonged absence from the team during the 2021 NBA season.
I mean, I think for us, we just got to focus on, the guys in his locker room and that's here. That's, putting in the work every single day. That's all we can control. That's all we can focus on. Every single day it's already a struggle. It's already, difficult just because we're trying to catch up. We're trying to put it together. So I think that's the main thing we can focus on is getting better every single day as a unit for whoever is, in the locker room and preparing for games with us.
As the months passed and as Kyrie's relationship with Brooklyn and his Brooklyn teammates began to deteriorate, more and more drama suffocated the Nets, and it was becoming clear with their play on the court. You see, things became bad enough that James Harden, who joined the team just 1 calendar year earlier, he wanted out. And apparently, he wanted no part of dealing with Kyrie and league protocol saga that went from a distraction to a flat-out locker room war with the Nets. James Harden eventually started sitting games as he awaited for his trade request to be honored. Just a few games later, he was a Philadelphia 76er. But Kyrie Irving's first home game didn't come until late March when the New York State mandate was officially lifted. But you see, history was seemingly repeating itself once again for Kyrie Irving. This wasn't exactly the situation Kyrie found himself in when he was in Boston, but the storylines, all the narratives, the disgruntled teammates, this was all something that Kyrie had already been familiar with to some degree. And Brooklyn struggled down the stretch of the season and eventually were swept out of the playoffs in the first round against Kyrie's former running mates, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and the Boston Celtics. The way this season ended, and especially with everything that went on dating from the fall of 2021 until Brooklyn lost in the first round, it only left a bad taste in Brooklyn's mouth, particularly for Kevin Durant, who effectively co-signed on his and Kyrie's decision to join the Nets in the summer of 2019. Well, Kevin Durant requested a trade from the team just months after, stunned the NBA world with the same request. And although Kevin Durant's trade request eventually fell through, and when I say fell through, I say fell through at that time because his trade request would eventually become honored as he would get traded to the Phoenix Suns. The relationship between Kevin Durant and Kyrie had reportedly hit a drag at that time. More speculation erupted surrounding Kyrie's future with the team and his possibility of being traded. And with the Nets reportedly reluctant to hand Kyrie a contract extension before the start of the 2022 NBA season, Kyrie initially gave a list of teams to conduct a sign and trade with, which for some time now has had us convinced that Kyrie's days in Brooklyn were numbered. However, just a couple of weeks later with no deal in place, Kyrie chose to actually exercise his $36 million player option to remain a Brooklyn Net for at least one more season. And this was a move that eventually gave Brooklyn fans hope that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and even Ben Simmons for that matter, would run it back and right the ship. However, just months later, as I mentioned just a moment ago, Kevin Durant would eventually be traded to the Phoenix Suns, and Kyrie Irving would be traded to play with Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. All in all, Kyrie Irving's talent, all-time special and undeniably great. Does he come with a little extra baggage? Sure. On the flip side, he is a proven champion and a proven winner. He has become one of the most closely followed and most notable figures in not just basketball, but the entire world of sports. And now at 30 plus years old, he's still in just the heart of his basketball prime. So the Kyrie story remains fascinating, but it's still unfinished. So it's only right that we say, to be continued.